Well, howdy there, folks. James Plocal Fryer coming to you again. Got the University of Oregon hat on, and so we're going to talk about a political topic on this one. Specifically, I ran across a really surprising report, a report about state Republican parties. A report about state Republican parties in the swing states, and the report goes something like this: they're broke. The vast majority of these Republican parties have no money left. And the money that they have, they are spending fighting each other. The Republican parties in Minnesota, Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, they don't have any money. And those are parties that are going to be pretty critical for the election coming up in 2024. So let me tell you some of the details. In Minnesota, the most recent disclosures to the federal elections officials said that they had $53.81. 53, 53. They don't have 320s to rub together, and they're supposed to be running an election for president in a state. Oh, and they only have $335,000 in debt. They defaulted on their rent last month. That's not good. Georgia's broke for an entirely different reason. The reason why they're broke is because they decided to try to stab their popular governor in the back and their popular secretary of state in the back. And so when Brian Kemp, who would normally be expected to be a primary fundraiser for the Republican Party in the state for which he is governor, completely goes over and says, no, you guys are not going to get any support. Yeah, you run out of money. The Georgia Republican Party is down to less than $100,000, and it's also possibly because they agreed to pay for the legal fees for the fake electors. Right? The fake electors who are charged in Fannie Willis's sprawling RICO case are having their lawyers paid for by the Georgia State Republican Party, not Donald Trump and not the state of Georgia, which would give them a public defender, but no, the state party, the one that denounced their own governor for not being sufficiently loyal to Donald Trump. That's not going to end well. That Georgia Republican Party is going to go under. Thankfully, Brian Kemp has arranged to have a bit of a personal replacement for it. He's got his own network of resources and folks, and so there is going to be a way back for the Georgia Republican Party. But boy, are they just driving themselves into a wall. Let's talk about Arizona. From 2013 to 2017, the Arizona Republican Party raised about $1 million each year, roughly $1 million is what it took to run the Arizona Republican Party. As of the last FEC filing, they had raised $167,000, like less than 20% of what they usually raise. And wow, they have spent a lot of money. They spent $500,000 on supporting a Kerry Lake conspiracy theory about the 2020 election. They spent just a huge amount of money on just crazy stuff that was not helping them build anything out, but was helping their bona fides with the Trump supporters. See, the only reason to spend $500,000 on that campaign was as a virtue signal to Donald Trump supporters and probably to Donald Trump himself. So the previous head of the Republican Party, Kelly Ward, was just a disaster. She didn't want to raise money. It turns out that's kind of your job. Now, Kelly Ward was voted out recently, and Jeff DeWitt has taken over, and he has raised a whopping $7,000 since he took over. Yep, not good news. He doesn't seem to be particularly interested in raising money either, or maybe the donors just aren't there anymore. More on that in a minute. In Michigan, my favorite, Michigan, they are over $600,000 in debt, the Michigan Republican Party, because they were spending things like $110,000 speaking fee for actor Jim Caviezel to come and talk to a convention. Really? That's what you're spending money on? You're not spending money on phone banks or flyers or even just giving it to candidates. You're giving it to a actor who, yeah, well, he played Jesus, so that's pretty cool. The current head of the Republican Party in Michigan is Christina Caramo. Now, Miss Caramo is not the head of the Republican Party, maybe? See, the rules in Michigan say that you can remove a party chairperson as long as you have 75% of the board's vote for removing that chairperson. And the vote was called for to remove her after 8 out of the 13 precinct or party chairs called for her to resign. And then she refused to resign, and they had a vote. And 75% is what they needed. They got 89%. They got 89% of the people present to vote her out. Here's the reason why it's fun. She refuses to leave. She is an election denier to her core. She denies the fact that Donald Trump lost in Michigan, and she denies the fact that she only has the support of 11% of her own bosses. I mean, the board is designed to provide governance for the party. It's very much like a board of shareholders for a corporation. And when they vote the CEO fired, he is supposed to be fired. Well, she's not accepting her firing. I wonder about whether this is the type of attitude that has chased all the donors away, because they don't have any money either. In fact, the last time that Christina Caramo was up for actual election in a very purple state, she ran for Secretary of State in Michigan in 2022. She lost by 14 points. It turns out that if you can't accept an election where you lose with 89% of the majority voting against you, maybe you shouldn't be running elections. Maybe you shouldn't be running a hot dog stand. Well, it didn't have to go this way. See, these are all swing states that voted for Joe Biden and this year and in 2020 and voted for Trump in 2016. Well, there's two more of those states, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. The Pennsylvania Republican Party, after accepting Donald Trump's nominee, Blake, for the open Senate seat there in Pennsylvania, who then Blake Masterson then quickly lost to John Fetterman, a guy with literal brain damage. The Republican Party in Pennsylvania says no. No, we're done with the election denying. We're done with the MAGA wing. We're going to go and be on the side of Team Normal. And shockingly, they've been able to raise money. Who knew that accepting reality was going to be a good selling point? They recently unanimously backed David McCormick, the man who Masterson beat in a Republican primary for the next Senate election. Well, McCormick is no fan of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is no fan of McCormick. There's a reason why Donald Trump wanted Blake Masterson in, is because David McCormick has shown a disturbing ability to actually think critically and be anything but a loyal sycophant, and that isn't okay in the modern Republican Party, except for Pennsylvania's, doing that. They are rejecting the unreality of the world that Donald Trump requires Republicans to live in, and so is Wisconsin. Wisconsin is another state that Donald Trump won and that Joe Biden won. And the Wisconsin Republican Party, after seeing Donald Trump's behavior and the election denying that came out of the 2020 election, just rejected it. Every time one of the party leaderships in the state got up and said the election was illegitimate and that Donald Trump actually won, they got removed. The party leadership in Wisconsin has stayed true to, frankly, simple reality. Simple reality. That's all it took for these Republican parties to prosper in these states, because Joe Biden ain't popular. Democratic parties aren't policies aren't that popular. I mean, they are debatable anyway, but they're certainly not going to prevent a Republican Party from succeeding. They certainly should be motivating conservatives to make sure that the party coffers got more than $100 in them. But when you are a party leader who has put the loyalty to a frank falsehood, the fact that Donald Trump did not win the 2020 election, when that becomes the foundation of your political movement, you've built a foundation on sand. You've built a foundation on air. And even though Donald Trump can repeat his verifiably false, so it's not going to be something that people are going to throw money at. See, the people who have money also are the ones who probably were successful in something. And that means maybe they're not so gullible. And maybe these folks who have ran their political parties into the ground, maybe they aren't so good at their jobs. And maybe it's because they're gullible. I don't know. It's just a thought. Let me know how wrong I am in the comments down below. Leave me a like, hit the subscribe, and boy, sometimes you just got to look at where the money is, right? And the money ain't with these Republican parties who are supporting the myth of Donald Trump. Anyway, I appreciate you. Thanks.